Welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today I've got Christopher Dedeyan on the show. Christopher, welcome.
Yes, thank you, my brother. Really a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. And you are a professional speaker and peak performance coach based in what part of Canada did you say?
I'm from Montreal.
From Montreal. Okay, I was going to say
Northeast.
Montreal, but I was like, wait, did you mention something else? I want to make sure I didn't mess it up. So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Feel free to introduce yourself. Go into a little bit of as much detail as you like.
100%. So thank you for this. So like you mentioned, my name is Christopher Dedeyan. I am a professional speaker and a peak performance business and life coach, as well as a learning disability advocate. So I'm dyslexic and do a lot of philanthropy work within the Learning Disability Institute and within the education system. So that's what I call like I am and so on and so forth. But my main goal really is to optimize people who want to perform, to get them from where they are to where they want to be. Because honestly, Chris, I truly believe there isn't a single person on this beautiful blue planet of ours that was put here without getting endowed of a gift. This gift, I call it your light. And it is our duty and our birthright to take that gift, to live within it and to bring it in the forefront. And if every single individual does that, as a society, we're going to go forward with more joy, love, happiness, respect, and empathy. And that is my goal. That is the goal of my organization, Dedeyan Enterprises, to really make people live in their greatness.
That's awesome. The meme or the image that comes to mind is I just recently saw this. It's a fish looking at a tree, and it's basically saying that quote, something along the lines of, well, if you think that that you need to climb a tree to be successful, but you're a fish, like you're not doing the thing that is your gift. And so I love that you said we all have a gift, and it's kind of like our job to figure out what that is and what our purpose is. And maybe we're not excelling in a certain area because that's not where our gifts and our strengths are. We just have to do a little bit of alignment and soul seeking. And that's when we really see, the potential that we truly have when we get in that alignment.
100%. I love the quote you just mentioned. You paraphrased the Einstein quote. So if you judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree, he'll go his whole life thinking he is stupid. That is the honest truth. Brother, if you're a fish, swim. If you're a freaking monkey, climb those trees. If you're a bird, freaking go and flap those wings. But don't be a freaking bird trying to act like a fish. And don't be a fish trying to act like a monkey. Be you, brother. That's what's up.
Absolutely. Or even if you're like a hawk that was raised with chickens and you don't know that you can fly, you're like walking around pecking at the ground. That was another motivational thing. Like, no, you need to surround yourself with those other hawks to learn how they do it. Go on the hunt for those goals, whatever it is. We can talk about different kinds of animals all day, but I'm glad that you knew that quote because that helps put it in perspective. But yeah, man. So how do we get into peak performance? Like, talk to us a little bit about how we get into that state and how would you define peak performance? Because how do we know? Did we do peak performance today? Did we not? Were we pretty average? It's hard to tell.
Great question. So let's start by defining what peak performance is. And this is my personal perception and ideology and definition behind it. But for me, performance is performing at a very high level, day in and day out, in a consistent way in every area and every aspect of your life. This is not just, hey, I'm super successful in business, but then I get home and my family life is not going well. It's not having a great family life, but then at the end of the month, you have a hard time paying the bills. It's not being connected with your spirituality, but I'm physically in shape. It's having that stability in every area of your life. And as you do that with every area of your life, then you will be a strong human individual. Now, there's so many more nuances, and this is where we're going to go into the how, the second part of the first part. I just flipped it around. The first part of your question, the how aspect is, if I ask you, Chris, do you think it would be possible for me, you, or anybody to really be 10 on 10 all the time, every single day, every single moment, just go full on and without missing a beat? Do you think that's possible?
Yes, anything's possible. The motivational, but we all need to recharge.
Okay. So you kind of answered. So you said, yes, anything's possible, but at the same time, you were like, we need to recharge.
It's not realistic, maybe, right?
Be realistic.
Yeah.
I would say actually impossible, Chris, because the reality matter is, can you really, like, if I'm telling you, I'm making a sports analogy. If I'm telling you, hey, to sprint your max capacity, and imagine your max capacity is X amount of time for X amount of distance. Now I tell you to do exactly that, but do it for 10 hours instead of doing that sprint time. Would that be possible? It's physically impossible, right?
Yeah.
Because there's sprint moments. So now why am I giving this analogy here? This is what performance is for me. It's not about being 10 on 10 all the time and holding it. No, I rather you play around the 7 and 8 on 10 consistently throughout your whole life, which is going to compound and give so much more value than day doing 10 on 10. And the next day you're at 1 on 10 and then 2 and then 7. And then you're all over the place. It's that high level of stability. And that's what you need. Now, granted, there are days you're going to wake up just like anybody. You're going to be spitting fire. You're going to be able to move some mountains. Everything's going to be great, right? We've all felt those days and they're beautiful. But then there's going to be days you're going to wake up, you don't even feel like getting out of bed. You're going to have a hard time just putting on your shoes or making your bed or whatever the case is. But if you show up within those days and you give the max of your ability within that moment in itself, that is still a victory. So that's how I perceive, how I structure, and how I look at and define with my Fortune 500 companies, my C-suite clients, and my entrepreneurs, how to be high performers.
I love the sprinting example because that's so true for anyone who's ever done track and field. I was a sprinter. That's what I identify as. If I had to do a 400, I'm like, geez, I'd blow all the energy on the first or second lap. And then the last two, I kind of fell behind. And so you're so right that, yeah, you can sprint 10, 20 seconds as fast as you can, as fast as possible. It's always fun watching those 100-yard sprints too. And you just see someone pulling away, but that's not sustainable. You can't do that for 10 hours, at least not in today's day and age. Maybe 500 years from now, humans will evolve to be able to do something like that. But that's such a good reminder that instead of trying to be 10 on everything all the time, which is not sustainable, it's better to be at a 7 or 8 level consistently instead of toggling between 10 and then a 1, where you're just getting stuff done one day, the next day you're not. It's better to be consistent, show up every day, and at least keep a sustainable pace.
Yes. It's that stoic approach, to be quite honest. It's
Absolutely.
that stoic approach. You don't want to be going up and down the roller coaster of life, because life in itself is already going to give you that roller coaster. So you want as much as possible to control what you can control. And the rest, you leave it up to the universe, leave it up to God, whatever you call it, leave it up to this divine purpose. But if you can control what you're controlling and have that stoicism in itself, then you're just going to be succeeding at a high level.
Absolutely. So how would you advise somebody who maybe wants to become a peak performer? What's the baseline for them? How do they measure it? How do they know they're actually hitting those peaks? Because I kind of mentioned it a couple minutes ago, is like, because I have that too. I go through the day, I feel like I kicked butt, I took names, but did I really? How do I know, where does that fall on the scale? It's different for all of us. But if you have any suggestions on maybe how to set a baseline and measure, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that.
100%, Chris, 100%. So the way to go about it is, the first thing you kind of mentioned, you alluded to, the first thing is clarity. You have to have massive clarity as an entrepreneur, Absolutely. As a person. What is your goals? Who are you? What is your destiny? What is, like, all of that? And that is a very, very, very rough and difficult place to start, because you're alone with your thoughts. You're looking at yourself in the mirror, and that could be scary for many, if not everybody. Because there's nobody else to blame. It's you against you. And now once you position yourself there and you're able to look at it and you're like, all right, cool. This is what I need. This is what I have to do. Perfect. Then it's, how do I get there? And for me, the best way that I have discovered, I've seen it within my mentors, I've seen it with my coaches, I've seen it with the people that I idolize, whoever. It's about your habits and rituals. If you sustain and put in your life the proper habits and rituals, and you follow them at such a high level, those habits and rituals that you're doing every single day will compound over time. Because, Chris, the reality is, success isn't sexy. I mean, they perceive it, they put it in a position that is like, oh, wow, that big home run, or, oh, wow, where did this guy come from? Where did Kevin Hart come from? Where did this, that, and the other come from? Bro, if we just use that idea of Kevin Hart right there, if for people don't know Kevin Hart, he's a phenomenal actor, comedian, and so on and so forth. And the last, let's say, 5+ years, he's been popping on every single movie and this, that, and the other. But if you take a step back and look at that man's career, he has been grinding for years and years and years to get to that point. So it's understanding the only way you get to those points is what you can control every single day. And that's your habits and rituals. And if you continually do that, then that will compound to higher levels. So you're not thinking about the future too much. You're not thinking about the past. You're just in that connected, present, now moment. So that's the way to go about it. Then is to see what are the proper habits, what are the proper rituals, and how to utilize it throughout the proper moments within your day, knowing the biochemistry of your brain, mind, spirituality to make it, implement it, and sustain it at a consistent level.
It seems like the theme here, which of course is something that every book that we read will talk about, is just consistency over time, because we all see, I'm sure 98% of my audience, if you don't know who Kevin Hart is, you must be living under a rock, let's just say, because most people know at least who he is. Maybe they don't think all his stuff's funny or whatever, but he is no doubt showing up on, comedy shows, Netflix shows. He shows up with The Rock in all kinds of movies. They kind of post on social media, huge following as well. Mm-hmm. And so it seems like an overnight success, but for those who actually study the history and the past and all those, I'm sure there were many shows that he did where he didn't have funny jokes and like nobody really showed up. And so what a lot of people focus on is just the last 2-3 years of, man, yes, Kevin's made it. He's just gifted. He's just talented. But no, he'd been working at his craft and perfecting it and honing it. And that's the theme that I think everyone needs to take away is 100. There's no such thing as that overnight success. It's just consistency over time. And you start to stack those habits and those skills.
100%. Chris, you got it spot on, bro. 10 points for Gryffindor on that one. So it is exactly that. And like I said, we used Kevin Hart as an example. Name any person, we could use the same example. From Oprah Winfrey, from freaking like Barack Obama to anybody you want. Like all of them are exactly that framework. So once you understand what success is, how it gets developed, then you're like, all right, cool. Let me put in the work. Let me do it the proper way. Let me define what success is just for me. And let me look at what I need for that aspect to happen within my life. Then you just go ahead and do it every single day. And you do it with high level of joy, abundance, high level of impact, influence, and everything that you need for that.
100%. So Christopher, when did your self-development journey start? Did you pick up a book? Was there like something that changed your mindset on it? I always love to hear the origin story because
I love it.
You fall into this thing and then you fall down the rabbit hole. I see all the books behind you and you listen to a ton of podcasts as well. So what got you started? What was like the first book that you can remember that shifted your mindset?
So the origin story. I love that question. And to take a little step back, I'm going to have to kind of take it to a moment of like, when I got diagnosed with dyslexia. So in the beginning of the call, I said that I'm a learning disability advocate. So at 8 years old, I got diagnosed with dyslexia. For people who don't know what dyslexia is, it's a learning disability that has to do with reading and writing. So your reading takes so much more effort. I was blessed at a very young age to be diagnosed with it. And from there, my parents noticed that, hey, we have to put you in a proper environment for that. And they found a school that's really specialized for students with learning disabilities. Now, at 8 years old, they came and told me, hey, we have to take you out of the school that you're in right now and put you in a specialized school. Brother, at 8 years old, all you hear is that you're losing your friends and you're going to a special school. You don't want that. You don't you don't understand what it is.
No way.
And then once you get into the school, then I start realizing, oh my God, look, I'm not alone. There's like hundreds of other kids like me that have learning disabilities. Then you start understanding, you start learning how to go about it. Then when the end of the high school comes, you're like, hey, what's next? What are we going to study? And then I wanted to potentially be a lawyer. I love wearing nice suits. I love speaking. I'm like, yo, this is my thing. Study it a bit more, look into it a bit more as the career. And I'm like, yo, there's a lot of reading and writing. Like 90% of the job of a lawyer is reading and writing. I'm like, yo, I'm dyslexic. I don't want to do any of that. Right. So now it's changed towards, I want to find something that doesn't demand a lot of reading, doesn't have a lot of writing. So I find the industry of fireman. I'm like, yeah, I want to be a fireman. That's cool. The boys, the truck, the adrenaline, all of it. So go into that. And it's not necessarily easy to get into fireman, especially in Montreal. It's definitely a very in-demand position, job, and so on and so forth. But after the years, get into the school, took me 3 years to get into school, got entered into the academy. And then I started working at an industrial facility, which essentially was Pratt & Whitney. They did airplane motors, and there was an industrial fireman center within the whole company in itself. So I was working to go into that position from a security guard to become an industrial fireman. Now, why am I saying this story? Because that was the moment that I had that first really introspective moments, because I was a security guard at night, the graveyard shift. And I kid you not, I hated it. It had nothing to do with the job. The job was amazing, great salary, great people, so on and so forth. But it just wasn't my place in this world. And when I was doing the graveyard shift, that I was doing my check-ins, walking a couple of hours throughout the night, I was just by myself and my thoughts so much that I started analyzing and asking myself questions, almost like, like metaphysical questions like, yo, why am I on this planet? What are we doing here? I feel like I could do so much more. And that's when I realized that I had a strong part within me that was entrepreneurial, that I was repressing for years. And it was getting cultivated without even me knowing. And how it got cultivated was when the teacher used to come into the classroom and say, kids, put yourself in teams of Even before she finished the word 3, I had my head up and I was looking for who reads the best in the class, who writes the best in the class. Let's put a team together. Let me delegate the work and let's get the grade together. Just delegation 101, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
When I was in college and I was 100%, I was looking at other people's strengths and weaknesses and I was doing the team because I knew my strengths and my weaknesses. In college, when I used to fail, I used to go see the professor afterwards. I used to negotiate my grade up. I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant to get the grade up. Negotiation 101. So as I realized at that moment that I'm like, hey, I have to go into entrepreneurship. This is where my life is supposed to be. Then I got into personal development. And the first book that I ever picked up, because I decided to go into brokerage, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, a staple, a very commonly known book. And if you guys don't know it, highly suggest it. Then I went into Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Those are the first 2 books that I read, man. Those are like the foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, because you come from a real estate background, right? So it makes perfect sense.
I love it.
It really does. And we had exactly the same thing. We don't even share the same name. Chris, we shared the first ever books that we started reading.
That's amazing. Those are literally the first 2 that I was like, oh my gosh, these are amazing.
So from there, I'm like, all right, cool. What is this? Well, I was just thirsty for knowledge. And then from there, it just grew and grew and grew. And I got like several mentors and coaches. I personally have right now 8 coaches and mentors. So I really understood the value of having that support, putting the proper people around you to get you to that level. So that's how my whole personal development journey began. And to be quite honest, I started this without even thinking about speaking and coaching. I didn't even know that existed. That's a whole story in itself, how I kind of like went into that industry almost by fluke, by chance, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that's a powerful story of just you having so much time to think. And I mean, I think of people like my brother just became a police officer, like before COVID and all the craziness, like he became a police officer like February 2020. And then March, everything kind of changed and he's enjoying it. He's finding his rhythm in that. But he sometimes has stuff where he's literally sitting at a Walmart for like 8 hours, kind of looking at the camera, seeing who's shoplifting. And he enjoys what he does, but sometimes he's just sitting somewhere for like 8 or 10 hours getting paid for it. So it's a lot of time to think. And I know my dad was a security guard, like when he was paying through college and stuff. And so that kind of brought back a little bit of memories. He would tell me he'd like fall asleep at night and he had to watch who went in and out of dorms on the college campus. And you have a lot of time to think, right? Hopefully I'm not laggy. It's saying I have my unstable internet. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, well, I got you. You were kind of jumping in and out, but I did get the gist of everything you were talking about, your father being a security agent.
So that kind of resonated too, because you just have so much time. You're sitting there, it's quiet, you're thinking. I mean, when you have 4 more hours of your shift left, right? And this was probably before Audible and everything was popular. I'm not sure if you were listening to any tapes or audiobooks.
Nothing. I would have loved to at least have that. Back in the day, it really wasn't. And that's why like the first question you asked me and I told you, hey, it's really massive clarity. That's where it comes from. Yeah. You have to be able to look at yourself. And it sucks. It's such a scary place to look at yourself because you're by yourself with your weaknesses, with your strength, with your mistakes, with your doubts, with your insecurities. But that's where you have to start.
100%.
Because then once you look at that, then you know what you need to do. All right, cool. This is my weakness. How do I optimize this? Do I want to optimize this or do I push it aside? Oh, this is my strength. Beautiful. How can I make it into a mastery? Not a strength, but a mastery. Do I want to do that? Yes or no? As you go through those processes, then you have the target. Once the target is set, subconsciously, life is going to give you the answers. You just have to know where you're going.
That's awesome. Because if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to know what to pay attention to. As soon as you set your sights on something, that's when you start overhearing conversations and going to the networking events or connecting with the people that can help get you to the next level. You mentioned that you have 8 coaches right now. Is that you have 8?
8 coaches and mentors. Yeah, right now.
That's amazing. And how are you dividing your time with them? Like how often are you meeting? Do you mind sharing what kind of coaches?
100%.
I'd love to learn that too, because I've been wanting to get a coach or two, but just the time management piece, it's like, gosh, if you're meeting with 8 people, are you in meetings all day or what?
So this is what's going to do. First of all, Chris, I'm going to slap you. If you're doubting to have a coach and you're like time management, then you're doing it wrong right there.
I'm just like, how are you doing 8?
So this is what it is. Okay. This is what it is. Now I have sports analogy once again. The way I look at it, I have my head coach. So my head coach, Trevor McGregor, I meet with him once every other week. So he's my main guy and obviously like a business partner at this point. Like we do so many things together. I've been working with him for like 5, 6, 7 years. I don't even know. It's been a minute. So he's my head coach. Other than that, I look at my life. Like I said, everything comes with clarity. What are the things I need to implement? What are the things I need to get better at? Then I get experts within each of those fields. So my head coach is Trevor McGregor. Then I have my business coach. Then I have my speaking coach. Then I have my storytelling coach. Then I have my workout coach. Then I have my dietitian. Then I have my spiritual coach. Then I have this, that, and the other. These are things that I have asked for because I've realized these are places within my life that I want to optimize for one way, shape, or form for the greater good of my goal. That's the way you go about it. Now, when it comes to the time aspect, most of the coaches and mentors that I have one that I see on a regular basis, okay? One or two at most. The other ones is when I need them at that particular moment. So I could do a retreat with them. I could do a couple of hours here. Sometimes it could just be an email. Sometimes it could just be a conversation. But I have access to all of these resources. Now, granted, I'm a coach, right? And I have done thousands and thousands of hours of coaching. And this is one thing that I always say, if your audience or anybody is interested in getting a coach, getting ready to go to the next level and want to get supported by a peak performing business and life coach, first thing you ask that person, I truly believe, is, hey, who are you coached by? My personal opinion, don't get coached by anybody that's not coached. It just doesn't make sense. You're selling something, you don't buy your own product. That doesn't make sense to me. Then you look at, hey, is this person resonating with me? Is what they're saying kind of makes sense? Am I vibing with the vibration? Am I kind of connecting? Because that connection is super important. Then you go look at their content, some way, shape, or form. Go consume their free content. Everybody has some stuff out there. Then you start consuming and you're like, hey, is the way this person is explaining it with the storytelling, with the analogies, with the concept, with the ideology does he have? Is it resonating with me? Am I learning from it? Then once you know that, oh yeah, this dude is, or this female, this person is working for me, then you go ahead and like, okay, cool. How can I work with this person to go to the next level? That's the way I approach looking at coaches. And there's a Buddhist saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. This is where self-introspection is super important. If I don't take a step back, when I was a broker and realizing, oh my God, wait a minute, my emotions are are controlling me when I lose a transaction, when this, that, and the other happens. And then I take a step back being like, hey, I'm going to become very successful. It's clear, but I don't want to be a bad boss. I don't want to be a person that just get controlled by their emotions. I'm like, how? Maybe I need to do meditation. I'm like, I have no idea about meditation. How can I get into that? And then my spiritual coach comes about. Meet her at an event, at a Tony Robbins event.
And it stood out because you knew you needed to improve that.
100%. At that point, 100%. Now, brother, I've done hundreds of hours of meditation, bro. 2 years ago, I went to a silent meditative retreat. I did 10 days, no speaking, meditating over 100 hours in 10 days. No cell phones, no nothing. No speaking to another individual. Not looking at another individual. That's hella scary. One of the most gratifying and one of the most difficult things I've done in my life. So these are the moments that you're like, hey, you look at it and a very different perspective and analyze, what do I need to work on? Why do I need to work on it? Is it going to help me or not? And as you're able to take that in a different perspective, not only in your industry, but in different industries, then you become an all-around just superstar in your own righteousness.
That's awesome, man. Because we were talking about that earlier, is that it's better to be a 7 or 8 and maintain that consistently instead of trying to be a 10 and then being like a ping pong ball going between 10 and 1 where you're not consistent. And the fact that you have 8 coaches and you meet with them, maybe not all every week, but as you need them, you have access to experts, and that helps you stay well-rounded and at the peak level. And that also, that thing that you mentioned about if your coach or the person who you might want to consider as a coach doesn't have a coach, that's a red flag because they're trying to sell something that they're not even really taking their own medicine. So that's a great indicator for everyone looking for a coach. Ask your potential coach who is their coach and see if they have somebody, because everybody who's been great at anything has a coach, right? I mean, I've talked about this before. Michael Jordan had a coach. He wasn't just figuring stuff out like, oh, I already know how to do this, I don't need a coach. No, everybody needs a coach because perfection is impossible. We can get as close to it as we can, but there's always room for improvement, and just making sure we have the best people. It'll get us a little bit better every single day.
I love that, Chris. And here's an analogy that I'm going to kind of drop here. So maybe you could draw a picture on that in itself. Yeah. Chris, you're the actor of your life. All right. You're acting out your life. Now you have some parts that are supporting actors within your life. Maybe your parents, maybe your girl, maybe this, maybe your animals. I know that you're an animal person. You have a couple of dogs and so on and so forth. Now these are actors within your life, but you're the main character. You're the whole movie's around you. Now, within your life, Chris, you have to be the actor, but you have to be the director as well. This is where it becomes interesting and very difficult. When you're acting out something, you're in it. You're in the thick of it. You're in the front of it. But as a director perspective, so you're not on stage, you're literally sitting on the stands, you have a broader picture of everything. And then I could tell you, hey, Chris, why don't you do this instead? Hey, Chris, why don't you do that? Hey, why don't you turn here? Why don't you turn there? And then as you're receiving this information by your mentors and coaches, you're like, wow, why didn't I think of that? Because you're in front of it. It's normal. Yeah. Our perception is hard to change like that. It's almost impossible. That's why, like you mentioned, the most successful people have coaches and mentors. You mentioned Michael Jordan, he had Phil Jackson. Kobe Bryant had Phil Jackson. Tiger Woods wouldn't be Tiger Woods without his father. The Serena sisters wouldn't be who they are without the father coaching them. And that goes down the list. You think Tony Robbins doesn't have a coach? You think Dan Graziosi doesn't have a coach? I mean, these are the concepts and the ideologies that you need if you want to become that top performing individual. And when we're talking about performance, once again, I analyze it, or we kind of broke it apart. It's not only finances. It's not only success in your business, in things, in whatever. We're talking about life. We're talking about you being healthy. We're talking about you being happy. You're talking about you being abundant. We're talking about you giving back, doing philanthropy. That's a well-rounded, happy individual.
I love that. And you always hear about those three, I think it's like those three categories of very popular niches, health, wealth, and relationships. Mm-hmm. Because you have to be a well-rounded individual. If you are killing it, you're making a ton of money, but then you come home and you're a terrible spouse, a horrible father, you're out of shape, you never work out. I mean, that's not the formula for well-rounded success. You want to be able to excel in all of these levels. So the fact that you have a trainer or a dietitian, people monitoring what you're eating, how to optimize and get that peak performance, that peak energy where you're not crashing at 3 p.m., we're always experimenting to see what works best for us. How do I change my calories every single day? What kind of exercises am I doing? What kind of mental exercises? Which books do you need to read? A coach can help you with that as well.
100%. You broke it down. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you broke it down 100%. And I know that you're into fitness as well. And that analogy of the calories, your macros, understanding, hey, do I fast? Do I not fast? What are the workouts? And so on and so forth are extremely important. But that's one analogy. But if you are utilizing that, that's only going to help you for your business. And if you're utilizing that with your spirituality, that's only going to help you with your creativity, with your time management. Right. Everything is interlinked. So don't think that, oh my God, I'm running my business, I don't have time. I'd rather spend 1 hour doing my work instead of meditating or taking a break or whatever. No, legit science, neuroscience has proven this. For your conscious mind to work best, for your subconscious mind to work best, sometimes you need your conscious mind to stop working. Yes. So you might be doing something and you're like, yo, you know what? Let me take a step back. Taking that step back and taking a break is going to activate your subconscious mind in a more fluid way to get those answers. And one analogy I could give is Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein, the superstar who he is, he used to be working with his colleagues trying to find a solution to one of the many problems that he was working on. And then in the middle of the problem, he used to get up and just leave. And the other coworkers like, yo, what are you doing? We have to find this. Where are you going? He's like, no, I'm leaving. He used to go and play the violin. Not a lot of people knew this about Einstein, but he was a great violinist. And then he started playing violin. And then when he's playing violin, he used to get that idea like, oh, that's what it is. Drop his violin, go back to the problem. It's because sometimes when you're too close to it, you can't feel it. You just need to disconnect. And that could be through working out, music, walk, so on and so forth.
Yeah, same thing I've heard with writing a paper, or if you're about to send an email, don't do it when you're emotional. If you see something and you want to fire off an angry email, that's what they call it, sleep on it. They're like, literally go sleep on it. And then you come back with fresh eyes and maybe you catch a couple of errors in your paper that you're about to submit, or you realize like, okay, this isn't even that big of a deal. Let me change the tone a little bit of this email before I say something that offends somebody or rubs them the wrong way. And so I love that idea of stepping away, because when we're so frustrated and caught up in the moment and we want to finish it tonight, it's like trying to put a puzzle together all in one sitting. I just get frustrated and I want to throw all the pieces everywhere. But if you do a little bit at a time, you sleep on it, you come back, maybe you find those pieces for the next little piece of the puzzle, right? They start to come together and almost reveal themselves to you as you take the time to figure out, what do I want out of life, and reflect on your current situation, where you want to go, who you need to meet, who you need to become.
I love that. And you said something right there I want to highlight: reveal themselves to you. Everything's around you. All the answers are
I
there.
love it. Yeah.
It's, are you ready to receive it? And to be ready to receive it, you have to ask the right questions. Like in the beginning of this podcast, we're kind of alluding to, you have to know your target. Yeah. Even if you don't know your target, because there was points in my life I didn't know. There's a lot of people probably listening to this and they don't know what they're doing. Maybe they're into something they don't like. Maybe in their career they're hating and they kind of feel lost. That's okay. Not knowing is okay. As long as you ask the right questions. You ask yourself, hey, am I happy? How can I be happy? What makes me happy? Then the answers will show up. The answers are always around you. Now, by doing this, what's happening is you're activating your reticular activating system, which is a part of your brain that the best way I could explain it, it's a filter to your brain. So what do I mean by this? Right now, Chris, we're looking at both of our screens, right? Maybe somebody is listening to this podcast, driving, maybe speaking to a spouse, whatever the case is. We see over millions of elements. So you might see a screen, you might see light, you might see your girl, you might see this, that, and the other. But unfortunately, your brain doesn't have the capacity to assimilate all that information. He only gives you the information that he thinks is pertinent to you. And what that does, or who does that, is your reticular activating system. So an example that I could give, Chris, have you ever bought a car before?
Yep, I have.
For sure, right? Maybe it took you a month to study what model, what mark, what tire. Maybe it took you a week. Maybe it took you a couple of days, whatever the case is. You choose your car. You go to the dealership. You're ready to pick it up. You're giddy like a 5-year-old kid, right? You're super happy. Get into that car, leave the dealership. You hit that first red light. And that first red light, you see exactly the same car going the opposite street. You've never noticed it. You're like, that's odd. I thought it was going to be unique.
Everyone has this car.
What's this car? Exactly. You go a bit further, you see another one. Then you see another one. You're like, oh, what's happening here? What's happening was that car has always been around you, but you hadn't noticed it. Now, for X amount of time, you were studying for this car. So you were telling your reticular activating system, hey, this is important. Hey, this is important. So then your brain spots it out for you. Like, hey, Chris, look at that car. Hey, Chris, look at that car. Now, where is this important to us? It's important towards what are the questions you're asking yourself? Are you somebody that's positive or negative? Because whatever you create, whatever you perceive, whatever you live in is going to manifest within your life. You could be walking down the same road, have a negative perspective, and everything will be flimsy and not sunny. And you could be walking down that same road a couple of weeks later, a couple of days later, a couple of minutes later, as soon as you change your mindset and see all the possibilities, all the opportunities, all the blessings that you have and we have as individuals.
That is such a good example. And it's so true because the answers, maybe we're not ready to receive the information. The answers and the teachers are already there, but they won't appear until we become the student or we open our mind to the things. Because the example, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I was actually gifted that book and Think and Grow Rich. And I got it, I was probably 17 or 18. I honestly put it on the bookshelf. I don't think I read it for 2 or 3 years. And then after I graduated college, I had like, maybe 2 or 3 months before I started my corporate job. And I had time. It was going to be a good job. I had a sign-on bonus. So like, I felt like I was set financially, at least I was about to be. And so I had some time to just chill. I didn't work. I didn't do anything. I just read some books. And that's when the Rich Dad Poor Dad hit me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing book ever. My mind is open. And it's been sitting on my bookshelf collecting dust because I wasn't ready to receive it at that time. And sometimes it's just frustrating. I actually got to talk to a millionaire a few weeks ago. And of course, as we get to, we level up, we get to have these interactions more frequently. But I went to an event in Oregon and he's the CEO of the software company. And like you said there, we have to ask good questions. I honestly didn't know what to ask. I was like, I feel like I'm capped a little bit, like I've hit the ceiling of my growth. And I know I need to ask bigger questions to get bigger answers. But I'm searching. What are those questions I need to ask? Because I knew I have so much potential here. I can learn so much from him. I just am not sure which questions to pull out of him, if that makes sense. I wasn't ready to ask those bigger questions. And so I'm stuck seeing this wall. Like, how do I get through the wall? And getting a coach or someone who can say, hey, you're not looking at these 3 items. That will break that wall down where now I'll know which questions to ask next time. I don't know if that makes sense, but like sometimes you want to extract the value. You're just not sure. And many people in the audience are probably there now. Like you want more out of life. You want to make more money. You want to be more powerful and present in your relationships, but you're not sure where to start. But the fact that you're looking helps your RAS to start listening for those answers and like, what question should I ask next? I kind of rambled there, but I hope that kind of made sense.
Please, but by all means, that was valuable, and I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And it was so interesting because, Chris, one thing I just perceived right there. Listen, we spoke a bit before this podcast, and I kind of got your vibe, and you were on my show Friday Flow, which was amazing. And what I'm seeing right now is you're like legit just standing in your own way of success. There shouldn't be, what is the question? You should just be at peace. I think you over pressured yourself within that moment, thinking that there is that question and you weren't present within that moment. Towards if you would have pushed that side away, which is Chris Bello is being in his own way, pushed that away and just being that present moment, the questions would have came, that interaction would have came. And sometimes it's not even a question, just being around that aura and that energy and that vibration that teaches you something in a metaphysical way that you can't even understand. But you were blocking yourself to that just because you were trying to attract, get the information, trying to get the value, but you were standing in your own way. It is so interesting that you said that, bro. And yeah, I could definitely help you out with that. Definitely.
No, that's good, man. Thanks for bringing that up. Cause I know we talked about it, just the presence, and I held up the book here. It's on my not nightstand, but like my side cubby thing that I have here, The Power of Now, right? And just being in the present moment. Everything is, it opened my mind so much when I read, I'm not done. I think I have like a chapter left, but it talks about how the past was made up of present moments, and the future will consist of the present moments now. So it's really all about the present moment. And I did kind of take away just from being there and being in that presence and feeling that aura of like, gosh, this guy's a giver. He's just giving it all away. He's trying to ask how he can help us, and he's answering all the questions. So there was a little bit of like, I'm not taking advantage of this fully because I don't know what to ask. So I totally see how I was getting in my own way there.
Yeah.
But being there and being like, this is awesome. I just love listening to whatever they're talking about. I'm a fly on the wall, and the osmosis, like the proximity is power type thing of knowing that these amazing conversations and connections are happening, and just being in the same room is helping me, like the rising tide lifts all ships. I'm becoming a better person by just surrounding myself with greatness. And I'm not sure exactly what to ask next, but I know that I'm open to going in that right direction, right? Like, what's that next step I need to take? Who's that next person I need to connect with? Just opening yourself up to the opportunities allows you to at least put yourself in the way of that next step or that next level of success.
100%, bro. I love that little rant there. And that's what it comes down to, is positioning yourself in places that you will meet these people, you will interact, you will rub these shoulders with these people. Because I'm telling you, anybody that succeeds, anybody that's a high level, like dedicated, huge part, if not all my life to this point, to this study, and they all say the same thing. They all talk to the same way. Now, maybe someone's saying in a certain vocabulary, maybe some people are very cognitive and understanding what they're saying. Some people are not, but they all act the same way. So if you want to succeed, just hang around people that are successful. This is very simple saying that has been said. If you tell me your 5 closest friends, I'll tell you what your future is. If you hang around a millionaire, not a millionaire, and you have 5 millionaires around you and you hang out with them for 1 year, I guarantee you can become a millionaire, because there's really a science to it. Granted, there's an artistic side to that as well. That's where the balancing act comes into play, but it is really binary. And if you understand what that is, things that unfortunately our education system maybe hasn't taught you, maybe you don't have the opportunity to learn it from your parents, maybe you immigrated here, whatever the case is, just by you being in that place, that aura, you understand, hey, wait a minute, they have the same opportunities as us, but they look at opportunities differently. They look at failures differently. They look at connection differently. They understand the value of EQ as much as IQ. They approach this problem like this. Just by being in that changes your perspective. Everything is psychology. The mechanics is 20%, like Tony Robbins says. 80% is psychology. Once you get that done, then success, your abundance, everything is already there for you. It's waiting for you.
Yeah, it's almost like we have a governor, like the little governor on the car, where it can really go 200 miles an hour, but there's something in the engine, like that little computer system or chip, that only lets you go 100. It's like we almost have that in our mind, and we limit ourselves. And learning how to program that, or, get rid of that, where we can really unlock the potential. We're kind of standing in our own way, kind of like we talked about earlier. I was trying to find that right question, and maybe I wasn't appreciating what he was talking about in that moment, because I was just like trying to fish for what's that next question I can ask to get that next thing. So once we get out of our own way and we start to surround ourselves with those people, I love what you said there, because there's like that power and proximity of just being there. You're going to be the next millionaire. If all your friends are millionaires and you're hanging out with them, you're going to pick up some more information. You're going to learn about investment opportunities, or maybe you're going to get that right business coach that they use to get that to that next level. versus hanging out with the people who complain all the time. They're negative. They see the bad things instead of the good things, right? We've all know people like that who just complain about stuff, and they complain about their situation, but they don't do anything about it. That will pull you down as well. So thank you
100%.
for highlighting that.
100%. And you know what? You mentioned a couple of things because I think it's important to highlight here. There's so many things I could unpack with what you just said. The last part of like, hey, we all have those complainers in our lives. And you know what? Those people have a part to play within your life. They have their role. You just have to be conscious and aware of what is that role. So if you're hanging around that friend that's like, you know what? When I'm with these boys, all we do is we're going to go out, we're going to have a great time, and that's what it is. But don't expect an intellectual conversation with other people. Then it's okay. You're just setting the intention for that particular moment and time because you need that balance in itself as well.
Right.
And as you grow, as you look at your ambition, then you start eloquently delegating your time, or not delegating, separating your time into places that you think is more valuable for your greater good goal. And that's how most of those times happen. Like, hey, let me hang out with this person, let me do this, so on and so forth. So that comes just with massive clarity and just being around that right place. And now you did mention as well, I just want to, so I'm kind of jumping here.
Unpack it, man.
Right,
go
but
into whatever direction.
Yeah, I just want to give like as much as value as possible to your listeners over here. So we're talking about rubbing shoulders with amazing people. Maybe somebody's listening to this and be like, yeah, you know what? I don't have that. I'm not blessed like Chris to be rubbing shoulders with millionaires and so on and so forth. Now, obviously it's a process, but you don't need those people. You could start with yourself within, which is what is living in the now, what Eckhart Tolle was explaining. And if you guys want more information on that, I've actually done a book review on Eckhart Tolle's book and many other books on my YouTube channel. You guys could go check it out at Christopher Dedeyan. But the thing is within. As you turn within, you will find those answers. And as you turn within at such a high level, the reason why Chris right here in front of me is able to hang around with millionaires is because he turned within. He changed his vibration. He changed his frequency. And that started resonating with other people that have the same vibration and frequency. If you start keeping yourself at that low vibration, that doubt, that insecurity, that I'm not good enough, life happens to me, oh, it's not fair, so on and so forth. Why did COVID happen? Whatever, you're going to just attract that, people. So be aware of where you are showing up.
And I've also heard that energy is contagious. I mean, when someone walks into a room and they're just having a bad day, or they have that scowl on their face, or you can kind of feel weird, like that energy. And even animals have this. They can sense fear and uncomfortable feelings. Like you always see the people who are scared of the dogs are the ones who get bit because the dog just is like, what's going on with this person?
Yes.
And so the same thing, other people can feel that energy. I love what you said there though, because when you surround yourself with people vibrating at those higher frequencies of joy and love, if you read Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza, they highlight the different wavelengths, and there's different actual wavelengths that happen between the jealousy and the anger and the hatred and the lack, and the other wavelengths of joy and gratitude and optimism and, just being overly positive at the they're opposite ends of the spectrum. And of course we can fluctuate sometimes, but the more we surround ourselves with those people at that higher vibration, we're going to be able to pull ourselves up and just understand that we can see the world differently. And that other quote, I think Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
That one I love too. I got to get it on the wall or something.
Let's go. I love that. And I love the fact that you mentioned Dr. Joe Dispenza, one of my favorite authors, read his book, You Are the Placebo. I mean, 100% legit. Like that is the way to go about it.
Change your life.
And yeah, it really does. And Chris, you were saying, energy, how people feel it, the animals, you were spot on. Really, another 10 points for Gryffindor over there. And understand, I'm a Harry Potter fan. Maybe a bit of geek on that end, but people who like Harry Potter will
I get it.
So the ideology behind that is understanding that everything is made of atoms, right? Let's go back to physics class in high school. But an atom is in fact 99.99999999999% empty space, 13 nines after the point. Now, if I'm saying this and we're saying, hey, we're made of atoms, I'm able to touch myself, I'm able to touch this desk, that's the physical thing. What are you saying? It's almost empty, right? Oh, it's because there is an energy cycle that's so much more predominant and radiant than that one specific thing. So imagine you being only 0.1111, like I said, 13%. 13 zeros after the point, and then that one, that's your physical state, but everything else is energetic. That's where things really happen. Once you understand that and you're able to click that and utilize it to your advantage, which is a lot of what Dr. Joe Dispenza explains, a lot of what successful people utilize on a daily basis, that's when you start really creating massive, massive flow of all the things that you need to desire really manifest in your life and just come to you essentially.
It's crazy. And it honestly sounds like woo-woo or magical. But when we think back to, I was never a great student and I never liked biology and mitochondria. And I was like, what is all this stuff? I can't even see it. It's weird to think that all these things are happening, but cells are regenerating and red blood cells and white blood cells. It's an amazing thing, like all the things the human body can do. And so while I probably scrape by with B's or C's, it's amazing to know that there's so many things that we don't know and we don't understand, the limitless possibilities out there, right? Like we think like what we see here is all real and that's all there is. Like, well, I don't have a Ferrari in the garage. Like, okay, maybe I'll never have one. Or maybe I can manifest that Ferrari or Lamborghini in my life. There's nothing stopping you. And you can, the law of attraction and all these different things and vibrations and energy, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, when you start to, things just happen, right? You're like, how did I meet this person? Or like, that is exactly who I needed to talk to. That's the conversation I needed to hear today. It's because of all these things. When you're seeking and you're knocking, the door shall be opened, or like when you seek and you shall find, like all these different quotes, biblical and other, religions and stuff have talked about this. It's all that law of attraction and energy and just being present in the moment. That's something we talked about too. So man, I love everything that we've been talking about today. This is all like, gives you goosebumps. And I'm like, what else do I want to manifest?
Yo, I'm telling you, everything's with that. Everything is with how you manifest and so on and so forth. And you were relating to the fact that, hey, it might sound a bit woo. To be quite honest, if you actually believe that it is like that, go study what quantum physics is. Okay. Legit. Yeah. Go study it. You'll really understand. You don't have to go into depth in like what Einstein used to go into the
theory of relativity.
Theory of relativity. But you just go study the double slit theory. That's all I'm asking your audience to do. If they go do that and they understand it, then you realize that, holy, wait a minute. There's law of attraction is actually real. And here's the way to explain it. And I gave you one correlation explanation with the reticular activating system, which is exactly what Chris just mentioned. If you seek things, if you talk about things, if you look at that thing, then you will attract it. Now, there's ways to do visualizations. There's ways to go about it. Add a lot of emotions. But I'm telling you, Chris, I don't have anything within my life that I haven't manifested. I'm somebody that doesn't chase. I attract. Whatever is supposed to be in my life shows up. For that to happen, you have to level up. So if you want that girl in your life, you want that boy in your life, you want that business partner in your life, you want that abundance in your life, ask yourself, who do you have to be as a person to attract that? It's not about going and getting that. It's easy to be like, oh, I want my significant other to be this, and you do that beautiful list. Homie, are you that person that deserves that? You gotta step back, look at yourself. And then once you're like, oh, wait a minute,
I need to change myself. Yeah, I need to become the person to attract.
Then you attract
that other person, right?
And you attract. Not only you attract an abundance. Then you're like, holy moly, with so much options. And you keep on doing it. You level up, and then your life has this divine way, this way of like ebb and flow to do it. But this starts within. This is why we take it back. Let's take it back from the beginning. The first question of the podcast. What's the first thing? Looking yourself in the mirror, introspecting, massive clarity. That's what it comes down to.
That's awesome, man. And I wrote that down here. Attract, don't chase. So many people, new business owners especially, or entrepreneurs, people trying to go down that path, they're chasing, they're calling, they're harassing people, they're trying to close that sale, and everything changes when you start to take that attraction marketing perspective and just being yourself, being authentic, sharing your message, and then people start to seek you. It's such an amazing feeling of having options. And, maybe that client's not the best fit. I'm not even stressing about it. That's okay. I don't need that commission. I don't need that money. I've got a handful of options over here of people who are waiting to work with me, pay for my services, my coaching, whatever it is that you offer. So such a powerful distinction. Attract, don't chase. I love
that. And Chris, as you were saying that, I remember a little story. And if you permit, I want to kind of tell you here, because I think
let's do it.
When I was a broker and I had hired my coach for him to like get me to become even more of a successful broker than I was back then, at a certain point, it was like a little rough patch that I was passing. Like I was kind of tired and all that stuff, but I have that mentality of just go forward. Yeah, keep on doing, keep on pushing. And he's like, all right, Chris, he's like, you're going to take a vacation. I'm like, all right, cool, but I'll take it when this, that happens. I have a lot of deals going up. I have this, that, and the other. He's like, no. He's like, before our next call, you're booking a vacation. You're sending me when you have booked it. It's like, I don't care when it is, but you're going to book it tonight. I'm like, all right, cool. And booked that vacation. And I thought, I'm like, you know what? Oh, I'm going to miss some opportunities for sales because I'm going to be not here and all that stuff. And no. The second I went on that vacation, I started getting more deals come in. And obviously I had put one of my colleagues in charge. Like when I go on vacation, my phone doesn't ring and all that stuff. But obviously I was getting feedback of where we're at. In that week of vacation, I made more money than I'd ever made throughout my brokerage career. And I wasn't even physically there. Awesome. When you want so much, when we're talking about standing in your own way, things don't happen. So it is really important to take that step back and to push yourself out of it. There's things that are trying to manifest and come in your life, but you're standing in that way.
We're blocking
and sometimes
it.
To get that, you just have to take a step back. Take that step back, take care of you. And then you notice that. And that's things that I do with my clients right now. Just like my coach did to me back in the day. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you feel pretty tired. Let's book a vacation. And they're like, no. I'm like, no, it's important things. You have to understand how your body works, how your emotions works to really level up. That's a part of high performance as well. Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of mention that. So sometimes that losing that client doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
Don't look at it as financials. Like imagine like a brokerage deal. Oh, it's going to give me X amount of commission. I lost 10,000 in commission. And no, you didn't lose anything, bro. You just lost that stress, that negativity, that client that's going to piss you off. That one client that's like horrible, which is going to kill 90% of your day. You just lost them. So what does that mean? Did you lose 10,000? No. Now you have an opportunity to go get better clients that are going to give you an abundance of more than 10,000. So why are you going to spend your time with unfortunate people that don't want to work with you, to have the negative energy? We are blessed as much as the clients to choose us. We're in a position to choose our clients. Utilize that.
That's powerful because that's also a shift in perspective. Instead of so many people would complain. I see this in Facebook groups all the time. They'd complain about that situation of, gosh, I lost $10,000. I really could have used that money right now, to put back into marketing. That client, I spent so much time showing houses and doing all these things, and then they change their mind or whatever, right? So they think of it as a loss versus here, you're shifting the perspective and you're thinking, now I have a bunch more time to focus on the clients that want to work with me. They're going to have better price points. It's going to be a bigger commission check, multiple deals, multiple referrals. And so when you look at it that way, the abundance and the attraction, you're able to go get way more. But with that being said, I feel like I need to book a vacation because I need to get some more clients rolling in and have other people doing the work for me. It's funny how that happens, right? You step out of the way and the success comes to you that we've been probably sabotaging to some extent. We just got to get out of the way sometimes.
100%. When sometimes you just want it too much, it blocks that aspect behind it. So take that step back, let that moment. And like you said, those clients that are there and you're like, oh, I lost this, I lost that. What we're talking about. If somebody's in that Facebook group and saying, oh my God, I lost this, I lost that. You're talking negative. That's all you're going to receive.
You're going to attract more negative stuff.
That's all you're going to receive. Look at it as when somebody's in your life and leaves your life, it's your life that's filtering out people that needs to be filtered. That's it.
Right.
Blessed. Say thank you because that person had a role and importance to play. Like you have to understand when it comes to the ups and downs in life, you have to look at it as almost in a stoic approach. Okay. When it comes to the top end, like, wow, like Chris, you were telling me on my show that you have over 1 million downloads on your podcast. Like that is amazing, right? And we spoke about you should celebrate that and all of that, right? That's beautiful. Look at that. But you should not be caught up like, oh my God, I'm the shit. I'm the best. I have a podcast that's $1 million.
I'm so cool.
Which is coming as well. See, I said it wasn't even me, but the divineness came up to me. It's coming your way, brother. I feel it. So all of those downloads, you go, oh, I'm the best. No, you look at it, appreciate it, learn from it. But then you're like, all right, cool. That is what it is. It goes ups and downs. But by doing that stoic approach, that equilibrium approach, you're going to have it exactly the same way when it goes down. So when it's going down, when it's negative, when you're backing down, it's not the way that you want to look at it, or it's not the way that you want it to be, you disassociate yourself. You're like, hey, okay, the number in my bank account doesn't define who I am. Right. This situation doesn't define who I am. Okay, it's just a part of it. So as you go through life with that stoicism approach, with that almost equilibrium approach, then you don't get caught up in the highs and you don't get caught up in the lows because they are extremely important. They're both teaching you something, but you're looking at it with a different perspective. Like we said, you're leaving the role of the actor and you're positioning yourself as the role of the director of your life.
Yes. And it's almost like you can put yourself in the audience of your own life and look at what are you doing? How are you reacting? And that helps you disassociate from the emotions because the roller coaster feeling of being super high, super low. If you can step back and look at it as, how's this movie playing out? Okay, Chris, like you kind of made a bad partnership. You lost some money there. What did you learn? Or, wow, Chris, you just made 20 grand in a day. Like let's not let that get to our head. Let's not spend that in, bad ways on like one Rolex or something. Let's put some of it into marketing and do something to celebrate, something reasonable, maybe a percentage. So I love that equilibrium of not getting too high, not getting too low, and just being the director and the actor in your life, not just the actor where things are happening to you, but actually stepping back and changing the story, because we all have the power to do that.
100%. 100%. You got it spot on. Got it spot on.
Well, Christopher, we talked about so many awesome things. Are there any last nuggets or takeaways that you'd like to share? Anything that we maybe forgot to cover or that you want to add on to?
I mean, Chris, a bit like you're seeing, I could talk until tomorrow morning about all this stuff. But if there's one nugget that I would really just add upon, I would tell your audience and anybody that really wants to be a high performer to start a gratitude practice. Just take that step back. We're talking about looking at your life in a different perspective. Just be grateful for what you already have. And I'm not saying don't chase. You mentioned Rolly. You want to get a Rolex, chase it. No worries. You want to get that X, Y, and Z, go get it. Like all of that is your birthright.
It's all fine. Yeah, it's all cool.
But take a step back and look at already what you have. So maybe the finance is not the position that you want it right now, but maybe you already have a cell phone. Okay, that's pretty cool. So there's an opportunity there. Hey, maybe it's just as I'm waking up. Holy shit, you know how many people would love to have your aspect of wake up, do your day. So look at what you're grateful for. The more you're able to look at what you have within your life, and granted, anybody that's listening to this has so many things that they're blessed about, and start listing it, it's a game changer. And the way that I've utilized that, every single morning, I wake up and I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And every single night before I go to bed, I write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And Chris, when I started this in 2017, I did like a New Year's resolution on steroids, which every single month I did a new thing for 30 days out of calendar. And then I said, next month, I'm going to add something else, and then compounded. When I got to this point of doing the New Year's resolution, the gratitude practice for that month, I legit told myself, I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, am I going to have 90 things to write about that I'm grateful for that's not going to repeat itself? I've been doing it for over 7 years. There isn't one day that it repeated itself.
Wow.
And this is for everybody. Everybody has that. It really depends about your perspective. And the more you have to be grateful for, the more things come in your life for you to be grateful for. It's as simple as that.
It's fun. It's like a funny secret that so many of us overlook or don't realize, because you're right. Everything that we have, at some point or another, the newness wears off. You get the new car, 3 months later, whatever. It's like any car. You want another car. That guy's got a shinier one or nicer rims or whatever. And so it's important to make that list of gratitude. I haven't done that in a while, actually. I mean, I wrote it out here recently, but I love that you do it morning and night. And you're constantly thinking, because there's so many little blessings that happen every single day. And even if it's a failure or something that we don't like, there's a blessing in that too.
Yes.
There's a lesson, right? Every blessing is a lesson as well. I think that's another quote out there. So thank you so much. It's not like a quick hack or anything or like a free guide. It's something that we can all start doing today, which is incredible. We don't have to buy a $500 course to realize that writing down 3 gratitude things in the morning and the evening will help us get so much further. So Christopher, where can our audience go to connect with you, to learn more about you, to follow your work?
Yes, thank you for that, Chris. So essentially, just go follow me on all the platforms at Christopher Dedeyan. My family name is Dedeyan. So let me repeat that. I kind of fumbled it there. Dedeyan. And if you want to know more about my ideologies, my stuff, go check out my YouTube channel. Something I put a lot of time and effort. I have a lot of stuff on my IG and all that. So in any way, shape, or form you want us to support you, don't hesitate at all. And if you want to be potentially coached by one of my coaches or by myself, or you want me to come in and speak to your C-suite or do a speech or whatever the case is, you could go on my website at dedeyanenterprises.com, and you'll have all that information over there.
Perfect. I will put all of that in the show notes, and I'll make sure to let you know as soon as this goes live and share it everywhere on all the platforms. And Christopher, once again, I enjoyed connecting with you on your show and having you on mine. And thank you so much for, just talking about gratitude. Grateful for you sharing this message and just putting good out into the world, and providing a couple tough love moments in there too, of like, Chris, you got to get out of your own way. I need that. It's a good reminder. So great connecting with you, brother. And I look forward to staying in touch.
Yo, Chris, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, and keep on doing your phenomenal work.
Thank you. Likewise. We'll talk soon, man.